Welcome to Tailored Talks with OMJ. We're back. I'm Brad, co-host and co-founder of OMJ. To my right, Mr. Will Jones.
Hey, guys.
And Miss Kendra.
Hi, how are you?
How you guys doing today?
Good. It's
Wonderfully well.
How's the week been? How's your week been?
Week's been good.
Busy.
Has been busy here at OMJ. So we're recording this on May 24th. We're in the thick of wedding season, so it's a bit chaotic, but in a good way. We welcome all the weddings to come to OMJ. I think we're at around 70 weddings for the month of May that we've worked on, and obviously they are all each a joy, but each a task in its own right to do them and do them well and hit those timelines. Nothing worse than an angry fiance. We try and never let that happen. So
Totally.
But welcome, guys. So today it is Back to Basics Day. So what that means, we're going to talk all things in a wardrobe that are your basic everyday essentials. So every wardrobe, it's got to start somewhere. Oftentimes we see, especially for guys, it can be very overwhelming. A lot of guys, fashion, shocker, is not the most important thing in life for them. Second or third or fourth most important thing. It's just not on top of their to-do list. And they don't know they need it till they need it. And then it's sort of too late. And then there's nothing worse than going to job, event every day and just feeling not your best. And so I think a lot of times in fashion and even with us, it's easy to get ahead of ourselves on all the different things we can do and capabilities. And I think for most, it comes back to we just really need to talk about the basics for guys and maybe do a little more talking about that. I think it resonates a little bit more. I know with OMJ personally, it's sort of been incredible over the past 11 years how we've been able to help so many guys, especially demystifying the art of dressing well. So making it seem easy, stress-free, and you can really change somebody's trajectory in their career and life. I've seen it so many times. I know that's a bit audacious to say probably for some, but it's just clothes. But so many times, actually, quick story, a good friend of mine from college, a little bit younger, he dressed fine. He wasn't, I wouldn't say, he wasn't like lost by any means, but he dressed fine. I think that's the best way to say it. And, he came to me our earlier days and was like, I need some advice. We had not officially, we didn't have a storefront at that time. So we were still early on and we were creating custom. We had started doing custom. So he was really one of our first like custom clients other than Mr. Will here.
Well.
But, he worked in an environment that they did dress up. He was obviously one of the younger guys on the totem pole and a bigger office. So it's a bit of the rat race where you've got a lot of competition, work-wise, dress-wise, everything. And so started working with him, very basic, navy, gray, white, just working with him, building that out. And within 6 months, he became sort of like the guy at his work. They started asking him style advice. It started with that, like, oh, I really like that, the cut of that suit. And, oh, I like how you have that tie. These are all basic things. And by the end of like 6 months, he was sort of the guy at his work known for style advice. And to see how much his confidence grew from that was an aha moment for me early on, because you have somebody who, again, it was fine, but he sort of became that leader in a category at work, unrelated to his job, but it empowered him and set his trajectory.
And my guess would be that down the road, perhaps it translated into a boost in performance job-wise.
I would 100%. You have to think that way. I mean, it was for me. I know, we're all in this, so obviously we notice it and see it. But so many times, if you look good, feel good, when you go to work.
And it comes across.
It does. It sort of sets everything. So I'm going to start with, what does basic mean to you guys?
Wow. I'll defer to Kendra.
I think basics for me are classics, right? I think for me, like, you have so many things to worry about when you're getting ready for work, outside of work, family, career. The last thing you want to do is worry about putting on clothes. So for me, basics is really these essentials in your closet that are your go-tos. You can always add things in later on, but it's your essential, your set. Let's say there's just a few things that you always go to of your set clothing. Like, because I think it's important to be ready last minute for whatever you need to be. So whether that be like a sport coat, you need to be ready to go. And I feel like a lot of people forget these things and maybe don't have them because they don't know. So I think it's good we're doing this.
Definitely. And I think about versatility as well within one's wardrobe, and, having those essential items in your closet to wear. And I used to jokingly say this, but in fact, I really mean it, almost blindfolding yourself, being able to walk into your closet. Hopefully you haven't fallen or hitten anything in the process, and then, picking out a couple of items and ultimately being able to wear what you choose.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's a lot that, you can sort of find solace in when you do find those core pieces within your wardrobe that you can rely on, day in and day out.
Absolutely. I'm reminded, I've been using this word a lot lately, among other things, but what we want to get to, and I'm going to shout out to Cross here if he's listening, former OMJer, the term he dubbed unconsciously competent. So at first, what does that mean? It means that you're able to do things easily without having to think about it and do them well. So I think of basics as that. To your point, you don't have to think about what you're going to put on. You don't have to give yourself analysis paralysis where you're not sure if the tie goes with the shirt or the shirt goes with the jacket. It just is easy. Everything you have goes with everything, and you can put together a great outfit without having to think about it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I use those sort of examples. I think from an OMJ perspective, that's something we've done really well. I think it's our core ethos. There's a make it simple but significant is sort of it is, we did not come up with that. That is what we do live by. I live by personally. It's actually from Mad Men.
Imagine that.
Go back and listen to episode 2 and we'll expand further on that. But it's from Mad Men, and I think it is simple to think about that, but if you are just keeping it simple, it makes it easy. And through that, as you sort of get comfortable and confident, you're able to create a significant presence.
Because you can add on to things when you have your basics, because it takes time if you have, not to say that everyone doesn't have style, but if you don't have your style.
A lot don't.
Well, I feel like they just don't have a home. Everybody has their thing.
Right. So I think you're exactly right. But from a guy perspective, we think about, you even think about the country, across the country.
Yeah.
So I think East Coast, and you get Midwest, a lot of those guys, they don't care.
Fair.
Yeah, they don't care. No,
it's
more
in the Midwest, but fair.
Perhaps.
I need a jacket, so I'm going to get a jacket, and I can get this jacket right here, and I need 3. And there's not the thought put into it, and there's no need for that. You know what I'm saying? So if for OMJ, can we make things for everybody across the country is something everybody can wear and feel good about, from your guy who I just want a jacket, I don't care, to your snobby clothes 101 or clothes horse guy who is all about the brand. Those guys, all about the brand, which we love those guys too. But it's, being inclusive, that's helped us by sort of sticking with the basics not getting ahead of ourselves. It's definitely helped OMJ to not only last 11 years, because as we know, trends change, but also always having something that's accessible for every type of guy and being able to help every type of guy get there.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll mention as well, historically, if you look at, say, Albert Einstein, who I wouldn't necessarily consider as, a style icon, but he had a uniform.
Yeah.
He wore a black suit, a white shirt, perhaps a black tie at times. And, that really freed up a lot of space brain-wise. And then, he finds his E equals MC squared.
MC squared.
But I mean, you think about Zuckerberg also, same thing.
Halston.
Steve Jobs, all of them
Sure.
had a basic uniform because essentially they didn't want to take the time to think about the clothing. But I think at some point they had to think about it to go, what is the best essential thing that I can pick to wear?
For sure.
Right.
And it's like, even like, say, Zuckerberg, like he looks basic, but those are not basic.
Well, I
Those
think
t-shirts are a lot.
Totally.
Like his t-shirts are not
Brunello
cheap.
Cucinelli.
Yeah.
Well, and I think here too, we really cater to more of the peacocks, but also, those
Everyday guy.
say like an Einstein, if you will, that are looking for, those essential piees, and then they can build upon it and perhaps become a peacock over time.
Perhaps should they go that way? News flash. I'm not a super into fashion guy. I love great quality, but I've never been a flashy guy ever. In fact, I'm not really I've learned into fashion, I would say. I didn't grow up, that being the core. I think I always had a bit of the interest on the design and the creative aspect of it. It was there, but I didn't just know how to dress well. Really, honestly, until I met Felipe, I would say. And again, when we started this business, I was not Mr. Fashion.
So I'm curious, did Felipe like take you aside? Or like where were you in the spectrum of like this style and clothing? Because you're like, I wasn't until I met Felipe. So what's the story?
And I give yourself a little more credit.
Yeah, well, and that's why I want to ask that question, because I don't know which way it is.
I think it was the basics for me. It's always been about the basics for me. Okay. But he sort of introduced me to fit, brand. Like, I think I was a big probably Gap guy. I never was really a fan of the logo on stuff.
Yeah.
The American Eagle logo. I was never a fan of that. So I think like growing up in Gastonia, Eastridge Mall did not have a lot of options.
Yeah, because it's about access.
We did have a Gap.
Sure.
We had a Gap. And so it was, I remember early on, whites and blues and light blue and, just core things that you could get. And when I went to college, I think, and I'll also, Polo, Ralph Lauren, obviously. But, went to college and I'm exposed to Felipe, who went to Phipps Plaza in Atlanta on the weekends with his family.
Yeah.
And the world of high fashion. And he knows all about everything. And I'm a big rabbit hole guy, so went down the rabbit hole. But at my core, I say this because it's easy for people outside of this world to say, oh, well, they know how to do it, so it's easy. And it doesn't relate because, it would be like, somebody in finance. Well, they know how to do finance stuff because they're in finance, right? And I'm not. So I'm over here and they're over there. But really, I say that because it should be universal. Everybody can dress really well. You can even start a clothing brand without knowing everything about how to dress. So again, I've learned. So my big thing over the last 11 years has any chance I get to impart my wisdom, guys of all ages, to get them more confident, and just communicating it can be really easy. And so we'll be talking about that more with this podcast and just, over the weeks and years as we do it. I think that'll always be an underscoring theme of this podcast. But, for today, sort of what I wanted to get into is some Q&A with you guys. I know we've all been in this a long time. So what are some of sometimes we forget the most basic of questions. So I tasked you guys to think about some things you've kind of heard over the years, questions about fashion advice and what you've given. So Will, Q&A style, throw out something that you've kind of gotten over the years.
So something that I've been asked several times over the years, and most recently, even last week when I was here at OMJ, is where should I be spending the most money from a garment perspective? What should I spend on, say, a suit or whatever that core piece might be within one's wardrobe? And for me, it's about quality versus quantity. So I really try to, impart that, hey, a Navy suit, perhaps a hopsack Navy suit, can lend itself to a lot of versatility within one's wardrobe and, can really pay dividends down the road. You can mix and match with a suit of that nature. And, you don't have to necessarily break the bank, but kind of finding a happy medium from a investment standpoint. And just knowing that particular garment will pay off in myriad ways.
No, I think that's important to think about. And like, as you're saying, like the most investment pieces, I think too, since like my background goes kind of across the board of different things and where I've been, I think sometimes it's lost as people are like, where do I need to spend my money? Of course. But also, I don't really always think it has to be expensive. I think if you have core basics and they're tailored well, because I think that's the important part is, let's say if you have to shop at the Gap or if you have to shop at an H&M or like any of those retailers or even like a Belk or something like that, as long as you get a well-tailored garment after the fact. So you can do a navy sport coat and a dress shirt and slacks. But if they're tailored, sometimes people don't know. And I think growing up for me, like for whatever reason, like, because I own like multi-price points that I shop at just because that's my style. But anything I bought that was like cheap or low cost, people are like, oh my God, what is that? And you're like, oh, but you're ignoring everything else.
Right.
So it's like sometimes you can wear the cheapest thing and that's the thing that you get compliments on.
But if the fit's in check.
Yeah. Or even like sometimes it could just be a basic t-shirt and they're like, how does that happen that it's the low cost thing that has really caught people's eye, and you might have something else additional that's a little more expensive. So I think it's kind of gearing towards what your style is. And sometimes that's innate. Like you might see a shirt and you're like, does this work?
Sure.
But I think the help is people knowing, does this shirt look like a white dress shirt, whether it be from the Gap or Target, is going to kind of work the same if you have it tailored well. Like, of course, it won't be as beautiful as Cucinelli, but it's still going to be something that's accessible. And people don't see the inside of tags.
So they don't. This is actually one of mine. So I think that's a great explanation. The way I would classify it, if I had to headline it, y'all know I like my headlines. Fit over everything. Okay? So a lot of young guys just graduated college or just going to college or had a career change and they don't know where to start. And it's expensive to get nice things. But to your point, go get stuff if you're on a limited budget, a very limited budget. Get those core pieces, Gap, even, H&M, I know it's a slimmer fit, there's plenty of, you can go to Belk. Zara's a great brand, but make sure it fits and take it to a tailor. And, as long as that fits well, you're on a good start. So what are some other Q&A questions that you guys have gotten?
I think a big one is like, what shoes can I wear with this?
That's a great one.
This is kind of funny because like Brad, it's a funny thing is like what I think of with suiting is sometimes my first thought now because of where I've been is you can wear sneakers. I know that's not everybody's jam and I understand that, but I think it's gearing towards being comfortable, and like because our workplaces have gotten a little more relaxed in style, like you can do a classic dress shoe with a pair of slacks or a suit, but you can also do a low profile sneaker. So, but it depends on, like, I feel everybody can pull it off, but like you have to be at that point where you're ready to do it
and get your steps in between, right?
Yes, and get your
I mean,
steps
I
in.
think, being such a more of a health conscious, generation as well, probably help the sneaker market.
Kendra is
Sneaker
Kendra is referencing my distaste for Vibram soles. And let me clarify that. I don't have a problem with Vibram sole shoes. I have a problem with middle-aged man in a full suit, a dress. There's different versions of suiting. We have, a very dressed up suit, navy pants, silk tie, and then you've got Vibram sole shoes on. It just doesn't match. And the tailoring usually is not great either. So I see this as the Mazda Miata of this generation.
Well, and I was about to say a nice tapered leg, if you will.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't notice the Vibram sole.
I think it's
much,
the whole vibe.
I think too, like in my, like, I'm not down with the Vibrams either. That's not anything, but like that low profile common projects or just a white leather sneaker that has a slight opening, just a sneaker opening, is perfect because it lays just right.
I think you're exactly right. And the person who wears that also knows, hey, I'm going to have a little less formal of a fabric here.
Well, and it's a good 3-day weekend shoe, right? It goes with any ensemble.
Right. Yep. They're wearing that with a textured suit that's has a sheen on it.
Yeah.
It's
a little different. It's a different
Might
style.
have a little open weave.
There you go. Little texture to it. I think, it's again, so what we're veering out of, honestly, is when you get to that, this is somebody who has strayed from the basics.
Yep.
Okay. And we see a lot of guys, they try to run before they walk.
This is true.
This is also my thing in life in general. We have a whole podcast on.
And literally in the Vibram sole.
Well,
run before they walk.
Like running in the Vibram sole.
They can't run because they don't have Vibram. They have to wear Vibram soles so they can run. I think this is anything like put your time in, get comfortable. This can apply to your job, your career, entrepreneurship. This is across all generations. I won't just pick on Gen Z. Sorry, guys. You got to work more than 6 months before you get a promotion. You gotta have if you're creating a brand, you have to have that for more than 6 months before you're recognized as a pinnacle brand in the industry and get all the love and respect. You don't get that overnight. You don't get that just because you created it and you're a little bit creative and you have a good eye. You don't get to go to the top.
Yeah.
A couple people may do it on Instagram and it just works out for them, but that's not for the most. So put your time in, and start with the basics.
Sure. And I think there's something to be said for, revisionist history too. You find yourself trying a multitude of different looks. Ultimately, you come back to your basics. But then once you have a real feel for what you like and how that integrates into your wardrobe, then you can mix and match and you can have some fun with it as well.
Yeah.
But until you experience those growing pains, you won't fully appreciate it.
Yeah. We all have the cringe moment, I'm sure.
Or even if you think something's going to work and you wear it and you're like, this didn't work for what I wanted it to.
And so much of it is subjective too. And that's actually another question that I get a lot of times. Can I pull this off?
That's good.
It's a great one. Can I pull this off?
And perhaps you can. Yeah. Perhaps.
I think expanding on that, if you believe you can, most of the time you can.
Sure.
And I think working within borders too, I don't think you should push it. When somebody asks that question, because you get that a lot, can I pull this off? Does this make me look silly? And it's I think if you feel comfortable in it, But if you put it on, you're like, does this make me look silly? You look silly.
If you have to ask the question,
yes,
the answer is probably no. And everybody can get to that point. And I think that goes back to my rant where you got to learn and do it. And the longer you kind of experiment and figure out what your personal style is, you'll get confident and comfortable and kind of knowing what
and that really is the operative word, comfortable.
Right. Yeah. Right. And even like my personal style is still very basic to this day. You know, I mean, Felipe picks on me all the time. You know, I like what I like. I like things that are timeless, and I like earth tones.
There's nothing wrong with
You've also done your homework.
Yes. I do have a few hours on this, but I've never graduated, I guess, if you could say, to a little more flash, which it's just not comfortable for me.
Yeah, I don't think that's your brand.
There's a lot of clothing guys. They're wired that way, and they look great. I'm not knocking on them, but they can pull it off. They like that. That's their style, their staples, if you will, and they can peacock a little bit more than I like to personally. It's just never been my style. It never will be. I may occasionally have a little burgundy on.
Resident Don Draper.
Yes. But yeah, it's never really been my style to go too flashy. So I'll never go that route. But I that doesn't mean Brad's over here judging if you do. I commend it. I might even be, dare say, a bit jealous if I see somebody pulling off, you know, we have a red blazer hanging up in the back that so many guys love. And I personally am like, I would never wear that ever. But it looks great on that. So
well, and it makes our jobs more fun as well.
Sure.
You know.
Absolutely. Any other questions you guys have gotten?
Gosh, I feel like throughout the years there's been so many
thousands
questions
we could go through, but
a big question I think is probably like, do I always need a jacket? I feel like that one's been kind of interesting because I feel like you don't always need a jacket. Sometimes you can still look a certain way. Like interviews, I feel like jacket, definitely. But like day to day for work, because we've gotten so more relaxed, you can do like different style shirts that kind of bring that same presence to it, whether it be like a short sleeve shirt or like a long sleeve shirt with a little slight pattern to it. Because it's like, I think, again, being comfortable is really important. And I think because our day-to-day work has kind of changed and a lot of people are working from home, I feel like that top thing has become more important.
The rule of 3 is kind of what I think about, because you are right. But think about it in terms of pant and shoes do not count. Shoes do not count for rule of 3. But pant and shirt. And so you don't need a jacket, but you you want a third piece to that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's a tie, maybe, you know, again, not my style of vest, but maybe it's a vest. You know, there's some other accessory that you add to that to bring that out. You know, a big question I've gotten over the years is, how do I dress better for work? So, especially in my career in banking and finance, this was a common question and a common thing I've seen. There was just a Wall Street Journal article about finance bro dress attire that I will certainly commentate on in
it's fantastic.
A future newsletter. But it's a real thing. So there's a lot of folks that they're eager to, hey, I want to dress better, but I don't want to go too far, right? And so my advice has always been, it's different for every job, but my rule is one level up. So if at your work, everybody's wearing polos and chinos, wear dress pants and a dress shirt and maybe a sport coat, a more casual sport coat. It would not make sense to walk in a full Navy suit and a tie and you'd just look silly. So know kind of like what the vibe is. But if you are at a job where a lot of folks are wearing, you know, a sport coat, maybe do dress it up with a suit. You know, but go one level up. If you go one level up, you're always going to be safe. You're always going to sort of be, you know, the top of your fellow coworkers,
and yet you're not being disruptive.
Yes, and you're not
hierarchy,
and you don't want to stick out as a tryhard either. But I think, if you're looking around like, oh, I'm good, I'm wearing the same thing as everybody else, your management sees that too. And so how are they going to know? How are they going to separate you? So it's not a hard rule of you can't dress like everybody else. But, if you're wanting to stand out, that's an easy way to do it. It's an easy way to separate yourself. Obviously, your work should speak for itself. But if everybody is wearing khakis and a shirt and a vest, a casual and a down vest from, I don't know, Patagonia.
Even Montclair.
I know Montclair is a great brand, but you still look the same. I mean, if that is what you're wearing and everybody else is wearing, and you're just missing an easy opportunity to stand out. I think
in finance, finance fashion has become so ubiquitous, and so you've got the perfect playing field to differentiate yourself from the pack.
And this would be my question, since your background is in finance. How? Because my background, of course, is fashion, but how did that become a staple? Because it really is. You just described what the article said that's a nationwide article that is the uniform, but how?
Because it is, I think it's a culture emphasized on work, and a lot of really hard workers in finance, a lot of really smart guys. And so the emphasis is that needs to be easy.
Okay.
They didn't have this podcast to listen to, obviously.
Yes.
What they're wanting to do is have a basic uniform that they don't have to think about, so that they can think about the things that actually matter at work. So I get that. I do. But what we're kind of saying is, this is an easy opportunity to stand out. And I know when I was in banking, I had a manager several higher levels up come to me and say, I always notice that you're dressed well. And if I ever am in a pinch and I need somebody to come with me to a presentation or a town hall, a meeting, and I would meet with literally CFO at Bank of America. I worked at Bank of America. This was not him saying that. This was earlier in my career when I was just starting. But I would take you with me, and you would be the first for me to think about. And he didn't even probably know exactly what I did at work, I'm sure, nor did he know if I was any good at it. But I was it was a more casual environment where I was in a lot of polo and dress pants. And so that always stuck with me for my career. I'm so glad he called me early on to sort of validate that. And I wasn't doing anything. I mean, this was like, I maybe wore a sport coat. I mean, I just stepped it up a little bit, come on. But to get the validation, it clicked with me early on. You always want to be ready. Even if you have a sport coat at your desk or a tie at your desk, you always want to be ready, because you want to be that person they think about if they need something. And it has nothing to do with my work ethic or my work at all. It was purely how I was dressed. And so that kind of, that gave me an opportunity early on to sort of know what that is like, to take that one level up.
Because I think that's important. As much as we don't like that people judge looks and things like that, this is what happens in the world. And perception is everything. They want someone standing next to them that presents the full picture.
And we're not necessarily saying, hey, clothes make the man.
Yeah.
But hearing that anecdote from you, it shows, though, that it does have an impact.
Yeah.
It does have an impact. And yes, it doesn't make anybody, but I think it elevates. It can elevate you in a way, just like if you're in an interview. And we've done quite a few custom suits for kids graduating, and they need something to interview in. And we've gotten to actually advise them hey, here's what you get. Here's the tie that you wear. And the amount of times they come back and say, I just felt so much more confident when I was in that interview. And it made an impact for me. So I think what we also did was we put together our own sort of top 10 list of basics to own. So these are going to be things, the essentials, the basics in your closet. I think we probably have a lot of things that are on each other's list, but these are just our top 10 for no other reason. Kendra, I'll start with you. Just kind of go through your top 10 list.
So my top 10 for men's clothing is going to be a navy sport coat, classic shirt, denim jeans, navy suit, button-down shirt, classic shoe, chinos, dress shirt, casual t-shirt, and a casual jacket. And I feel like those things are going to kind of get you by.
That's great.
Awesome.
And to expand on that, because mine is a variation of that.
Same.
So with that, what Kendra just listed off, those 10 items, you get, do not check my math on this, but 84 different combinations.
Okay, I didn't go that far because I was not in finance.
Was it not 85?
This little back of napkin math here. But you get multiple combinations with those 10 things. So you can create sort of 84 different looks to wear. Honestly, you have those 10 things, that's all you need. So I like to, when I'm explaining something for folks, a lot of times I like to take steps backwards and deconstruct it. And so, you start with this big picture idea. Basics are good. Think about the basics. And then you dwindle that down of how do I get to that? And so the point of this exercise is all you need is 10 items and you're ready to go. So it's that easy. You have these 10 items or some variation and you're good to go. And then you're good to start your journey and then grow from there. Well,
mine is super similar. And, we all keep coming back to this term versatility. And that's probably the most spoken word at OMJ week in and week out. But it is true. The more versatility one can get out of their wardrobe, ultimately the better. So for me, number one being a navy suit, particularly a hopsack suit. So something that has an open weave, something that might have a little texture to it as well, to where you can blend it with other pieces of your wardrobe and not just wear it as more of a formal piece, as in, say, just a standard blue suit. Also, I would look at perhaps getting a sport coat with a pattern, say houndstooth or Glen plaid, and perhaps in an earth tone as well to weave into your wardrobe. A white dress shirt you can never go wrong with. And I'd strongly recommend at least having one French cuff white dress shirt in your wardrobe so that you can dress up for, say, more formal occasions, a la tuxedo. And, perhaps you'd want to carry it over to your suiting as well, but also to maybe go for like a medium spread collar with a standard white dress shirt will pay off well, and you can really dress it up or dress it down. Gray trousers, to me, are the most optimal piece with respect to one's wardrobe. You can mix and match gray trousers with any sort of top, whether it be say like a blue dress shirt, a white dress shirt, and a crew dress shirt, or perhaps something that has a stripe or a pattern to it as well. A V-neck sweater, whether it be in merino wool or cashmere, I feel like will really serve one's wardrobe. And especially if if you've got suiting that's a little darker, perhaps go with a stone color or a camel color in the V-neck. And that also acts as a layering piece. So in colder months, it'll serve you well. Chinos are always a popular option, whether in brown, navy, black. You really can't go wrong with the chino to dress it up or down. Denim's always fun. You can go the selvage route, and you can go with, say, a white even during the summer months, or go darker for a more elevated look for nightlife, perhaps. Loafers for me are key. And whether you want to go the Belgian route, the penny route, the tassel route, you really can't go wrong. And ultimately, if you have a black pair and, say, a brown pair, you could arguably even wear, say, that black pair, a penny loafer perhaps, ultimately shine to the hill with a tuxedo. Yeah. And so you've got that added, again, that versatility. An overcoat in either blue or black. You can wear it over a t-shirt. Looks fantastic. And then last but not least, ties, pocket squares, watches, the like. Just, a great way of accessorizing, your outfit and bringing a little splash to one's ensemble, suspenders, etc.
I love it.
Yep.
So for my top 10 list, I do have, I think, a lot of the same things you guys do. So I'll quickly run through it. But I think a Navy suit was sort of the pinnacle of mine. And again, as Will mentioned, something with a texture to it, because you can wear that jacket. If it has a little bit of a texture to it, you can wear it. It's easier to wear as a separate, so it doesn't look like you're wearing a suit jacket. So Navy suit was sort of my number one. A few of my other ones, white Oxford. So white Oxford button down. You can wear that casually. You can dress it up. Dark denim. So I went maybe I went a little too specific in my in my list. But if you have one pair of denim, I would say dark denim. Again, you can dress that up down. Medium or a dark brown loafer. So I did one dress shoe here. And that dress shoe being, you can wear that with your denim. You can wear it with your suit. A navy or burgundy, like grenadine tie, which is like a solid, has a texture to it. That's a great piece. I have a knit polo, so not a golf polo. Those would be fine to have. But, I think a dressier polo. But that will give you the ability to wear it and layer it. So you can wear it under a sport coat. Or you could wear it just on its own with a pair of jeans or chinos and a sort of alt blue textured sport coat. So this would be an alternate version of navy. So maybe it's a little bit lighter or brighter blue, a little richer blue. Maybe it has a slight pattern to it. A white or light blue dress shirt. And then I also have like a sweater, something that you compare. Again, you can layer that. You can wear it with just the dress pants of the suit. You can throw a shirt on underneath it. You can throw the white Oxford underneath it. You could wear a tie with it underneath, have that over that. You could wear just the sweater with the suit. You could, all of these things go together. So that is my top 10 list.
And great. I think all of them kind of, we keep saying that they're essentials. Like we did this separately and we all kind of came up with the same things that
and
really
if you were to
basics.
Search top 10 essentials, they probably would say on the internet.
Yep.
They would probably say some version of the same thing that we just gave you. So anyways, before we close, any bad fashion that you've seen?
There's lots of bad
anything to stay away from?
I think it's fit more than anything.
Okay. Yeah, fit's important. Things to stay away from. I think, and this is going to go against my previous life, but I think kind of doing the most trendiest thing is a mistake. There's nothing more harmful than and it's really the weirdest thing. If anybody remembers the high-end designer Balenciaga arenas, not to knock anyone that still has those and wears those, but you're talking about $1,095 shoe that was only wearable for a year or two.
Mm.
I feel like I get it. It was on trend. Everybody loved them, but they didn't make it past.
Sure.
And so I think you've got to think that cost per wear concept, that sometimes that low profile sneaker or something like that. I just feel like things that last are really important just outside of work, in work, that it makes more sense to do something that's not too far if you're going to spend a lot of money on it.
And sustainability wise too. Yeah. How much waste is there for, a lot of your companies making cheap, trendy clothing. Where does that go?
And ultimately less is more.
Less is more.
And investing in those core pieces, perhaps, you can only spend but so much, but buying the best you can, and, taking care of the garment, and then also ultimately being able to alter the garment.
Alter it. It's interesting. So a plug for OMJ. I mean, everything we make will last forever. We haven't tested that because we haven't been around forever. but everybody that I've made stuff for, you're still wearing the first piece.
I'm in a jacket that's 9 years old.
Yeah. Well-made things will last forever. You got to take care of it. I did have a friend who had a dog, so I can't warranty if your dog gets a hold of it. But my first pair of Allen Edmonds, another great brand. Yeah. My first pair of Ferragamos I got in 2009, I think. I still have them. In fact, they held up longer and they're now not in style. So I don't wear them because they weren't a super basic, simple item.
Yeah.
But they held up well. And, if you take care of it, you get them resold. So, another thing, if it's well made, even your bigger designers like a Ferragamo, I love Ferragamo. They do have a more simple line of shoes that I do have some of. But, when you're getting something that's a little more on trend and it's well made, it will last, but it's not going to last maybe with what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So,
and you're really losing out on that versatility,
right,
too, within your wardrobe.
But I think you hit on an important point, is talking about shoes. Like, I know we only did 10, but that's a really big one too, is well-made shoes that I think are really important, is essential because they get you through.
Shoes. And a lot of also for our men, a lot of women will tell you that's sort of the first thing they'll look at is
I am one of those women.
Well, and not to get Shakespearean, but socks or no socks, that is the question.
Yes. I'm a no sock guy. I also admittedly own my own clothing company, so I can get away doing that. I probably wouldn't do that if I was in a boardroom. So dressing for the occasion, I think would influence that. And I have a pair of Crockett and Jones suede loafers on.
It's a great brand.
I've worn these 4 days out of the week for the past 6 months.
Yeah, superb.
I'd like to beat them up, see how well they do. They're phenomenal.
And they still look new.
Yes, I do try to take care of my stuff. So, anything else before we close?
I think we've covered it.
So, number one, if you have any questions, we're going to be doing a Q&A mailbag episode or incorporate that into a future episode coming soon. So feel free, DM us on Instagram, email us info@omjclothing. We would love to answer those sort of live. And if we don't, we'll still answer you. Also, if you need any basics, OMJ Clothing, we know a guy or a guy and a gal and a guy that can help you. So we would love to have you in. Otherwise, we hope you have a great week, guys, and we hope this has been helpful for you. And please, if ever you have questions or we can help, please reach out.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. So we have 2 events this weekend going on. So we have the Coca-Cola 600 and the Monaco Grand Prix.
So exciting.
Do you guys think the fashion's going to be the same?
Oh, very little crossover, I'd imagine. But who knows? Lewis Hamilton and Ryan Blaney might be wearing the same ensemble.
What about the fans in attendance? I think that's the...
I think the fans in Monaco, like at the Grand Prix, are going to be totally different style. I think they're going to go high fashion because I think they're really trying to be a part of that mix. Now, I'm going to admit, I've never been to a NASCAR event.
I've been to one or two.
Or Coca-Cola 600.
I can promise you there will be no high fashion. If it is, the sleeves will be cut off and there will be beer and there will be lots of debauchery.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a vintage Dale Earnhardt t-shirt.
So do you think jeans
support it.
shorts are going to be?
Probably.
Jorts will be in full effect. Should be fun.
Will they be wearing socks or no socks?
Oh, well, we'll have to ask Mr. Shakespeare.
Or shoes.
Or shoes at all, yeah. Sure.